Picture a battlefield drenched in blood, the clash of swords, and the cries of warriors echoing across the land. This is the domain of Ares, the Greek god of war. Born to Zeus and Hera, Ares embodied the raw, violent, and untamed aspects of warfare. His very presence on the battlefield could turn the tide of conflict, inspiring both fear and courage in those who fought beneath his gaze. Ares was born to Zeus, the king of the gods, and Hera, his wife. From the day he was born, Ares was different. While other young gods liked to learn and play, Ares only wanted to fight. He spent his time practicing with weapons and dreaming of battles. As Ares grew up, he became known for his strength and skill in fighting. He wore shiny bronze armor and carried a huge spear. When Ares went to war, he didn't go alone. He brought his sons, Fear and Terror, and his sister Strife. Together, they made battles even more scary and violent. But Ares wasn't just strong. He can be tricky too. Sometimes, he would disguise himself as a human soldier to fight in mortal wars. He loved being in the middle of the action, feeling the rush of battle all around him. One of the most famous stories about Ares is from the Trojan War. This was a big war between the Greeks and the city of Troy. Ares decided to help Troy. He fought so well that he was beating many Greek heroes. But then something unexpected happened. A Greek warrior named Diomedes, with help from Athena, the goddess of wisdom and strategic warfare, managed to hurt Ares. The god of war was so surprised and angry that he yelled louder than 10,000 men. He ran away from the battle, feeling embarrassed that a human had wounded him. Even though Ares was a powerful god, not everyone liked him. His own father, Zeus, often said Ares was his least favorite child. Zeus thought Ares was too violent and didn't care about anything except fighting. Many humans felt the same way. They respected Ares because he was a god, but they didn't love him like they loved other gods. Ares had a special rival among the gods, his half-sister Athena. Both Ares and Athena were gods of war, but in very different ways. Ares loved the bloody, chaotic parts of war. He enjoyed the fighting itself. Athena, on the other hand, liked the smart parts of war, the planning and strategy. She also believed in fighting only for good reasons. Ares and Athena often fought against each other, supporting different sides in human wars. Despite being so tough and warlike, Ares had a softer side too. He fell in love with Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty. This was a bit strange because Aphrodite was married to Hephaestus, the god of metalworking. Ares and Aphrodite's love story was famous among the gods, but not always for good reasons. Once, Hephaestus caught them together and trapped them in a magic net. He called all the other gods to come and see, which was very embarrassing for Ares. Ares had many children, and many of them were as fierce as he was. His sons Phobos and Deimos, Fear and Terror, often went with him into battle. He was also the father of the Amazons, a group of strong woman warriors. Another of his sons was Sickness, who was so violent that he would attack people on their way to visit holy places. Sickness was eventually defeated by Heracles, showing that even Ares' children could be beaten. Even though Ares was a god, he wasn't all-powerful. There's a story about two giants who managed to capture Ares and put him in a bronze jar. He was stuck there for 13 months and might have stayed there forever if Hermes, the messenger god, hadn't freed him. This story showed that even the god of war could be outsmarted sometimes. Not many Greek cities worshipped Ares, but the city of Sparta loved him. Sparta was famous for having the strongest warriors in Greece, so it makes sense that they liked the god of war. Before battles, Spartan soldiers would make offerings to Ares, hoping he would make them strong and brave. Ares was also known for his sacred animals and symbols. The dog was one of his sacred animals, valued for its loyalty and fierceness in battle. The vulture was another, as these birds often circled battlefields, representing the aftermath of war. His sacred plants included the wild thistle and the dragon arum, both known for their aggressive appearance. The spear and helmet were his most common symbols, representing the tools of warfare. Ares had several famous love affairs besides his relationship with Aphrodite. One of the most well-known was with Eos, the goddess of dawn. This romance resulted in Ares being cursed by Aphrodite to forever be in love. Another significant relationship was with the nymph Harmonia, with whom he had several children. These stories show that even the god of war wasn't immune to matters of the heart. Despite his reputation for violence, Ares was sometimes called upon to serve justice. In one famous myth, Ares was put on trial by the gods for killing one of Poseidon's sons. The trial took place on a hill in Athens that later became known as the Areopagus, or Ares Hill. This story shows that even gods had to answer for their actions, and it became the basis for Athens' court system. Ares' influence extended beyond just warfare. In some regions, he was associated with agriculture, perhaps because the same strength and fierceness needed for war could be applied to taming the land. In Sparta, there were even rituals that connected Ares to fertility. This shows that the god of war had a more complex role in Greek society than just promoting violence. Other cities, like Athens, didn't like Ares very much. They preferred Athena, who was smarter and more peaceful. This difference shows how ancient Greeks had different ideas about war. Some, like the Spartans, thought war was glorious. Others, like the Athenians, thought it was sometimes necessary but not something to celebrate. As time passed and people stopped believing in the old Greek gods, they didn't forget about Ares. Artists kept painting and sculpting him. Writers kept telling stories about him. Even today, Ares is often used as a symbol of war in books, movies, and games. The stories of Ares teach us important things about war. They show us that war can be exciting and make people feel brave and strong. But they also show that war is dangerous and can hurt even the strongest warriors. The Greeks used Ares to think about big questions. Is war ever a good thing? What makes a good warrior? Is it better to be strong or smart in a fight? Even though Ares was the god of war, he wasn't all bad. He was brave and strong, and he didn't lie or cheat. He fought openly and faced danger without fear. These were things that ancient Greeks admired. But his love of violence and his quick temper were things they didn't like. Ares shows us that even gods aren't perfect. They have good and bad sides, just like humans. Ares also had a special connection to the season of spring. This might seem strange for a god of war, but it makes sense when you think about it. In ancient times, spring was when many military campaigns began. The weather was better for traveling and fighting, and food was more plentiful. So while Ares was associated with the destruction of war, he was also linked to the renewal and energy of spring. In some versions of Greek mythology, Ares had a sister named Eris, the goddess of discord. Eris was known for causing arguments and fights among both gods and humans. She and Ares often worked together, with Eris stirring up conflicts that Ares would then escalate into full-blown wars. This pair showed how small disagreements could grow into major battles, teaching people to be careful about how they handled their arguments. Despite his fearsome reputation, Ares was sometimes portrayed as a protector of cities. In Thebes, an ancient Greek city, there was a myth that Ares was the father of the city's founder. Because of this, the Thebans saw Ares as a guardian god, believing he would defend their city in times of war. This shows that even a god associated with destruction could be seen as a protector, depending on whose side he was on. Today, we don't believe in Ares as a real god, but we can still learn from his stories. They remind us about the power of anger and how easy it is to get carried away in a fight. They also teach us about bravery and standing up for what we believe in, even when it's dangerous. Ares might have loved war, but many of his stories end up showing why peace is important. After all, even the god of war could be hurt or trapped. His stories remind us that no one, no matter how strong, is safe in a war. In the end, Ares remains one of the most interesting gods in Greek mythology. He's not a simple character. He's complicated, with good and bad qualities, just like war itself. His stories have survived for thousands of years because they tell us something true about conflict and human nature. As long as there are wars and battles in the world, people will keep telling stories about Ares, the powerful and frightening god of war.